Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Robin Butler signing on again from the UMUC workshop, the tools for curating the scoping literature review. I had actually did a workshop, actually a synchronous workshop with various students during that time, and it was held on Thursday, July 12th. And I understand that the recording did not go through, even though I did record and complete it. We had some hosting issues with WebEx. So as a courtesy, I wanted to go ahead and go through some things that we did cover. The only difference with this particular recording is that we won't really have the questions, but I will try my best to sort of use my brain in this early morning to figure out pretty much what types of questions were going through your minds at that time and address them. Again, welcome to the Curating the Scoping Literature Review workshop for UMUC. Again, it is a pleasure to definitely share this information with you as it pertains to the software suite. This is the most, when I was a student at UMUC, as stated before, I heavily relied on Mendeley. Mendeley was just my savior for parts, particularly for chapters 1 and 2. So I do definitely give this particular software a thumbs up. So we're going to go through a lot of features with this particular workshop and recording. The good thing about this recording is that I have more capabilities. I think we were talking about capabilities when we met before via WebEx, and at the time I was actually at a computer where I did not have property rights to download the software. So I was actually on the campus in which I work, and I didn't have those capabilities. So now I am home and I have full capabilities. So you're definitely in for a real treat with this particular recording. So just a brief description of the Mendeley software suite. It's basically, when you think of Mendeley, you think about a repository. It provides sort of a compilation of tools for purposes of assisting researchers to properly convey and disseminate their writings, okay? It's a free download. It stores, of course, it compiles and organizes your data for the literature review stage within a dissertation. The presenter, I'm acting as the presenter today, and I'll illustrate how using this software makes both chapters 1 and 2 seamless for producing a strong basis for continued research for the dissertation. Now, I wanted to, before moving on, I definitely wanted to differentiate that they are phases for producing or preparing a dissertation. First of all, chapters 1 and 2, okay? And I'm kind of going over, the way that I've done it, and that was pretty much easier for me. Chapters 1 and 2, I used the Mendeley software, but for chapters 3, 4, and 5, okay, in vivo was used. Okay, so I just want to kind of put that out as a disclaimer. The reason why I use Mendeley for chapters 1 and 2, think about, and you're going in order, and sometimes research is a reiterative process. You do have to go back and forth to make sure you have consistency through your document. And that's pretty much the last phase. But think about pretty much going in order. With your literature review, chapter 1, you're going over different things like, you're telling the reader about, your research. If you, for example, my research question was, what are some factors that pretty much increase retention or affect retention amongst millennial generations within the public sector, within U.S. public sector organizations. So I wanted to get pretty much a clear, first and foremost, a clear description on who millennials were. I wanted to also get a clear description on U.S. public sectors. And public sector organizations, in my case, was very broad. So I had to break all of that type of information down within the first portion of my dissertation. Okay, in order to do that, you know, with explaining who millennials were, I had to also go through and explain the different generations, so people can go ahead and differentiate and pretty much find the significance as to why I wanted to capture that picture for millennials. So think about chapter 1 as capturing a picture. And with capturing a picture, you're actually learning the literature. So that's the part of curating. You are learning the literature and you're processing it in such a way where, you know, it's slowly, you're presenting it in such a way, okay, or putting all of it in order in such a way where you can convey it as a picture. Okay, if that makes sense. I know I took a long time explaining that. Chapter 2 is basically all of your theories. Okay, how does your theories play into this problem? Okay, because chapter 1, you're not only going to explain things, but you're going to explain it to the point where, okay, well, why is this a problem to the management practitioner? Okay, so in explaining the problem, in chapter 2 is going to speak to those theoretical frameworks that are going to align with the research problem. Okay, so just keeping that in mind, kind of keep that locked in your brains for a minute, and we'll kind of go through mentally, and I'll pretty much explain to you as to why I started using Mendeley kind of solely. I solely use Mendeley first before going on to other powerful programs such as, you know, in vivo, as it was used in my case. Okay, so basically, step 1, I went through a series of steps, and step 1 was just, you know, exploring a topic of interest using one search. So I wanted to kind of show you what that looked like. Oops. Oh boy. Okay. So I wanted to kind of show you what that looked like. So let's explore a topic of interest using one search. So in my case, I'm still going to use my university's one search, okay, because I have full access as a faculty member there. So I'm going to go into where it says library, and it's pretty much different where you are. The only thing that's a little much of the same is probably the one search. I believe we just have UMUC one search, and here it's more library one search. So if I hit one search, okay, and this is just sort of, I'm just, you know, sort of using, I'm going to put it on advanced so you can kind of, I can kind of show you how I broke down the Boolean. So I'm going to put on here millennial retention, public, sector, organizations, okay, or PSO, I've seen it, okay, and I can put on here, or government. Now for my particular topic, I just basically stuck with state, municipal, and federal governments, okay? With millennial, however, you could pretty much, let me see, Y generation, they were called, millennial they were in very different terms. So, you could have millennial generation, Y generation, okay. And I'm just breaking down different, different terms as this would probably be your Boolean search for to obtain your articles. So here, as you see different, I'm just going to widen this screen for a minute. You'll see different, you'll see over 21,000, articles in which, you're not going to, read all of them. So a lot of times what I did was, for my particular generation, I wanted to capture my millennials that were of working age. So I started with a certain number, and it was 1999, and that would put them, I believe at the time, it would put them at age 21. I wanted, let me see, because I took into account they had to graduate from, college and all of that good stuff. I wanted full text, peer reviewed. Now, another thing that I had, now I'm going to go back to peer reviewed. I'm going to just say full text. Okay. All right. As far as, with this particular topic, especially as it pertains to chapters 1 and 2, sometimes you can use gray literature, and gray literature is pretty much governmental documents. In my case, I wanted to know, okay, what was the retention rate for millennials? So a lot of that information came from the Department of Labor, things of that sort. So I sort of just I'm gonna put on here, of course, English. And as you can see, the number is getting a little lower. Geography, I wanted everything in the U.S. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And then you can break it down even more, but I wanted to get all of the U.S. ones. Content provider. Okay. Alrighty. I'll take it down just a tad bit. But, something like this, you would have to definitely break it down a little bit more, or probably narrow your scope when it's something that big. So I wanted to kind of show you, pretty much everything, all the steps that I had. Now, if I wanted to download this particular article right here, I would go ahead and, just download it, okay, onto my desktop, okay, all right, and put it in a folder. So wherever you are, if you have a laptop, desktop, anything that, is pretty much a device that's downloadable, you could definitely save it there for when you are ready to upload your literature to Mendeley. Okay. So Mendeley is actually a free software that's provided here, as you see, www.mendeley.com, and it has the ability to, you can definitely download it to get full access. And what I mean by that is your information is in the cloud. You can save it. Once it's saved, it saves both to a cloud and on your device that you wish to use. So when you download it, of course, every time you go in, you'll definitely have to sign in and, of course, create a username and password. Now, if you're on your desktop like I am now, normally if you click it, click the icon, it'll go directly to Mendeley. But in this case, if you guys are first users, you would go ahead and download it. As you can see, it's 4 capabilities, and one of them we won't really go into depth about. But the reference management is the one where, all of your articles are downloaded. Okay, and the reference management is basically where it connects with a Microsoft Word document. First of all, it saves all of your articles in this repository, and basically when you're ready to cite your articles, you can work hand in hand with Mendeley to do that. I've also included a video, but I'm also going to include that within this particular training today. Research Network, you can also connect and collaborate with a lot of researchers worldwide. So let's say if my topic is about millennials. So I still, people still share. You sort of make your search not viral, but available to everyone. And what happens is they can sort of set up like social media. They can pretty much look at the research that you're doing and send you articles and send you information pertaining to your topics and your research, which I thought was really, really cool. So I still get information on millennials. So if I want to produce an article, even though I'm finished with my dissertation, if I want to produce more research on that, I can definitely grab that from the external repository. And I'll show you a little bit of how that looks. Your data sets, of course, you can store. Again, you can share and cite your data sets with one secure online repository. Okay. And careers, you can also find a job on Mendeley. So if you have research, they have a lot of postdoctorate careers within Mendeley, and this is something that you might want to venture into either right now or after you've completed, your research or your dissertation. Okay. So it's tools for every stage of your career. So as a student, of course, you can definitely, we would definitely expect you to use it. If you're doing continuous research, you can definitely use it. And of course, myself, I'm a faculty member over at Curating, so I also use it, to sort of illustrate different things to my students, keep all of my articles in order. So as a lecturer, you can use it, and as a librarian. Okay. All right. So of course, by being a repository, it's easy to manage. Your citations and bibliography creation is easy, with a lot of styles to choose from, namely APA. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Making your data discoverable. You can share data sets with collaborators and get a unique DOI to support accurate citation of your data. Mendeley provides a secure online repository, again with those sharing features. Okay, and of course, like I stated before, you can also get information on career. So that's sort of my quick overview or spiel on Mendeley. Okay. So I think we went over the repository feature. Okay. Now, I notice, you're probably noticing that I'm using the word curating, just to sort of give you a brief definition of research curation. It involves the act of carefully selecting and evaluating those items to prepare for a presentation or commentary. So all it is basically organizing your data so that you can correctly convey it. APA is the format that UMUC and a lot of other schools are big on. But I think of APA as, even though sometimes it gets a little crazy with citing if that's not your thing, think of it as appropriately organizing your information. If you say it, state it. If you reference someone, give them credit. So mentally, it's just pretty much like a way of keeping you mindful. Okay, keeping you mindful of that, and we're definitely going to go over that right now. I also included an APA referencing capability, a snippet, and you can find that if you sort of fast forward it to 22, I think 22 minutes into the video, it'll, if you click this hyperlink, which I'm going to send along with this, with the YouTube video, it'll basically give you a whole presentation on APA citing. Okay, but you're going to get it live here today. Okay, and I've also included some screenshots, or how you pretty much how the citation plugin works. Okay, but first I'm going to go ahead and sort of show you pretty much some features of Mendeley before we actually get into using it to pull data into your literature review section of your dissertation. The first thing that I wanted to kind of show you, I set up a folder here that it says Lit Review for Mendeley. And if you remember, I had some issues uploading my articles, or actually not uploading the articles, but getting the folder to sync over. That was basically due to us being on a totally different server. But again, I am using the computer at home, so it definitely shouldn't have that issue. First of all, I want you to kind of direct your attention to the tabs up top. You have the file, which is used to add files. You can add folders. You can add entries manually. You can import, rename document files, and of course synchronize your library. Okay, and synchronize is a big deal, because remember, your information, if you save it here, you definitely want to synchronize your information, so when you, let's say, leave the house, you can also get it in the cloud. Okay, so if you're on another computer, you can also pull that same repository of articles up. So you can create new folders here. Some people create new groups. You can cut, copy, find, okay, which is a good feature. Library as a table, citation style. You can, definitely turn that into American Psych Association, which is APA 6th edition, and other details that are related to that. Tools. This is for installation purposes. You can uninstall the Microsoft Word plugin or install Web Importer. The reason why it says uninstall is because I've already installed the Microsoft Word plugin. You can also check for duplicates, and I'll show you a little bit how to do that when when we're finished reporting. Invite colleagues. This is a way in which you can invite other people to see your work. And here it does this through Elsevier. And let's see something real quick. Okay, all right. Elsevier is basically a publisher, and through here you can invite people to join Mendeley. Okay, so let's say if you guys are trying to assist one another with certain articles, you can actually send articles to one another. So if I say, okay, we had a really close cohort, so some of the folks in our cohort, along with us trying to find articles and for our dissertation, which was a continuous thing, sometimes I might have found something on, another topic that a student was doing. I could definitely send that information over to my over to my classmate. Okay, let me see. All right. So this the invitation to for people to join Mendeley, however, is they're currently undergoing maintenance. But once it's back, you could definitely, share, and if you wanted more information on capabilities of sharing, you could definitely hit that hyperlink, and it'll give you specific directions on scholarly, they call it enhancing scholarly sharing. Okay, and this is just basically one of those things that helps you really, it's a seamless way, it's supposed to be pretty much a seamless way of sharing information from researcher to researcher, but you have to invite people first in order for everybody to have the same access. So if you want to toy with that a little bit, you're more than welcome. Their page, Mendeley, like all the other programs, they update almost every day. So you could definitely go back and get that information. As far as, and this is just for just to kind of show you how this all works. The Lit Review for Mendeley, I went on and created that particular folder, but if you want to, if you ever want to create another folder, you have these down here. And this is to delete folder. You can remove a current folder, or you can add a folder. Okay, so for this particular one, if I wanted to add a folder, you see that it puts a new folder in here. Maybe I want to name it folder 1. Okay, and you notice that just populates like that. But I've already sort of created a folder just for this particular workshop. If I pretty much click on it, okay, it'll have Lit Review for Mendeley. Okay, and as you can see, it's already synchronized. It says synchronize attached files, and you already want to have that on. Hide your settings. Okay, so let's say if I want to go ahead and add files. Okay, I go right up here where it has the plus. And you notice it's not a lot of tools, which I love, because it's not a lot to remember, right? Baby steps. So if you want to add files, I have a file about millennial retention and state, local, and Fed settings. This is already on my desktop computer. So if I want to go ahead and maybe select 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm holding my control key down while I'm selecting this. It's probably an easier way to do this as well, but we're gonna definitely do it the way that I'm most familiar. So as you can see, voila, it comes right on over. Okay, now over here we always have, this is called our details, notes, and content section, and basically it says 5 documents selected, edits will affect all selected documents. If you select, one at a time, if you go ahead and select it, it has details, okay, on them, and it also, of course, has the actual PDF. So meaning that the authors that are here are normally, I normally save them, even though it sort of brings them over, as it brings it over in their particular format. So it brings it over as you have an author column, a title column, year, published in or added, and these will give you the dates that they were added. Sometimes it'll give you the journals, okay? So somewhat consistent on, the formats, like this is all caps and things like that. But for the most part, all of the authors are typically brought over so that you can at least identify them, okay? So let's say we're looking at Henstra, right? Looking at Henstra. Now with these particular ones, what I did first was I opened all of them, okay? Going through all of them, I was able to make certain notes, okay, and that's kind of the act of curating as well. You're annotating, okay. So with annotating, I made notes just to say overview information on how millennials adapt to the public sector. This is the actual article, okay? The actual article in which I pulled up. And let's say if I want to say, oh, that's interesting. Out of a total population of 107 students and alumni, 92 millennials were born between 1980 and 1995. As you can see, once I select this, I have the option of highlighting it, adding a note, or copying it to a clipboard. So let's say that, I say, oh, I want to go ahead and make a note. So I can say, this may be used in the introduction portion, or blah blah blah. So I go ahead and make a note. So here where I have private annotations, contents, details, notes. Now, unfortunately, this won't sync until you sort of close this out. So that's the only thing you can pretty much. That's pretty much a little weird. But for here, as I went through a lot of my articles, I start noticing evolving themes. Pretty much the first four: informality, civility, immediate feedback, and computer literacy. So I found that I kept, these terms kept resonating or sort of emerging through the literature. So what I started doing was just kind of taking notes of each one, okay? All right. And this is just the way I did it. If you're not, if you feel like you're like still lost and not seeing things emerge at that point, then you can sort of start notating. So this is the part where you're adding any needed annotations, okay? So, and this is pretty much, this addresses the whole article rather than portions of it. Your private annotations that are put within here will kind of sync once you close out and come back in again. Okay, so it's really weird how it's done a little bit. I'll try syncing it now. As you can see, kind of syncs it. Okay. All right, but yeah, typically you have to sort of come back. It seemed like it got the first one. Link the first one that I had. Let me see if it'll link this one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically, and then I just did that just to kind of show you guys. If you put the note in here, you can just add 2. And you see how it kind of privately annotates it for you. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that. So there's a lot of things that you can definitely do within this particular one. Another thing that I wanted to kind of show you guys, and I thought was really, really cool. I'm just going to kind of open up a Word document. So the other thing that I wanted to sort of open, okay, so I'm going to open this particular document right here, and Mendeley is still up, okay. So let's just say that I'm just writing, I'm just sort of starting chapter 1, and I say do the research. Millennials are tolerant of certain policies, but tend to shy or tend to have fears regarding workplace rules. And I'm just making this up, guys. According to team, millennials are the most resilient population ever. Okay? So let's say I'm just like, okay, where did I get this from? So as you can see, in order to reference my material from or add, directly from Mendeley, as you can see, these right here, they didn't come with the original Microsoft Word, but these are basically add-ons. Okay, and this is actually in your video that has the snippet, but I just wanted to kind of show you how this is done. So if I say insert citation, I can actually search by author, title, year, or simply go to Mendeley. Okay, all right. So if I go to Mendeley and I say, okay, I want Henstra. Okay, and I might say, you know what page did I get that off of? Oh, 492. Okay. I go back to Henstra. Okay. Right. Lit review for Mendeley, and I'll put on here site. Okay. All right. See how that's done? All right. I'm going to do it again. Okay. Let's say that I have a second quote. And I want to go ahead and insert the citation. Okay, I put on here, type in Henstra. Right. Let's do one with a date. Let's do Cohen. And I hit OK. Alright, see how that's done? Okay, so basically, so it starts, pretty much, putting in the direct quote. Now, one tidbit and things that you should always do with your quotes. Definitely look back and see if, like, this particular one says, no date. But as you can see, if you go inside of it, it's actually 2016. Okay? So it's just a matter of making sure all of them are making sure they are okay, 436. You definitely have to, whatever quote that you have, you definitely have to make sure those are corrected. So, for example, this says, well, do you want to keep this manual edit or revert to the automatically formatted version? So you want to definitely keep your manual one that you put in. Okay, so all I say with that is just to make sure that the citation is correct within your document. But it's still a very easy way to put that information in. In fact, if you have sort of, what I've done is I do a lot of cascading. And a lot of times if you have your software and your documents side by side, okay, you can, you can definitely, look while you're, writing, okay, or while you're typing. Let's try another one. For Hulette, they actually have the year, so let's see. According to Hillette 2006. And this is a direct quote, so it's definitely going to need a year. Millennials are not that motivated and will stop working. And that's just a quote, no pun intended. So if you want to include Hillette, you go ahead, hit citation again. Of course it disappeared. Go to Mendeley, or you could search by the author. So you want to go ahead and put in Hillette, hit Hillette, say okay, Hillette 2006. Okay, so you see how that kind of pops back up. If you went on a specific page in Hillette, right, which is page 17, you can go ahead back to that same quote, page 17. And if you hit that, you want to keep your manual at it. Okay? So it's much easier than just, having a bunch of paper right there, you thumbing through the paper, and you're like, oh God, where was that quote? Okay? In most cases, you can, go ahead and, if you know you're going to use that particular quote and say, geez, I love that quote, you can highlight it. And then when you go back, it'll be easier for you to, take it on out and put it into your writing. Okay? All right. Okay. And again, with adding this particular tool, Microsoft Word, I did include that particular update for you, so that if you don't have it in already, you could definitely get that particular tool. Okay. Basically go into your add-ins. Okay. And that's how you would go about adding Mendeley. Okay. And as you can, and basically that video is also included in the presentation that I'm going to send along with Mendeley today. So it's basically located in your APA referencing capability. Okay. Also, I wanted to share, some compatibilities with Mendeley. A lot of folks have a tendency to use whatever software makes them comfortable. I cannot stress enough the importance of using more of your powerful software tools, and I say powerful because they can do a lot. Your powerful software tools for your chapters 4, your 3 and 4. The tools that you want to start off using for chapters 1 and 2, namely, is basically your Mendeley. The reason why I use 2 separate tools is because Mendeley was sort of an easier program, as you can see. It's very easy to navigate. I want you guys to really take some time and navigate and learn the program, the software program. It's very, very easy. And with that, once you're prepared to upload those documents, it's very important to start keeping a repository of your work, because at some point, as your research evolves, everything's going to start looking the same. So you definitely want to keep that data set somewhat separate Now, are you going to have a tendency to maybe use one or two articles that you've used in your literature review? Sometimes, yes. But the nature of the articles that you use in chapters 1 and 2, a lot of times are a little bit more scoped for just chapters 1 and 2. Meaning that you're not going to use a lot of gray literature for your, for your findings section. You may have one or two articles for gray literature, and gray literature again is like statistics and things of that sort. It's very meaningful data, but is all your data going to be that? No. You want a diverse pattern of data so that you can have a very rich data set. So if you find yourselves at the point where you're sort of chapter 3 is sort of telling the reader what you're going to do as it pertains to the systematic review. And, when you get to that point, you want a robust and you want a rigorous review of material. So everything is not going to look the same. For example, with my chapter 4, I had some case studies. I had some, all of them were peer reviewed, but I had some case studies. I had some empirical articles. I had a pretty diverse data set for chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 2 was basically all about the theoretical lenses, the framework, things that had to do with those theories. So those articles are going to be for those theories rather than, explaining the connection and all. The connection is going to be basically your chapter 4. You're going to explain, okay, this is what I got. And then you're going to further connect those dots for chapter 5, telling you what it means to the practitioner. Okay, you're finally like winding down. Okay, but this is what I found. Okay, so chapter 2 is kind of giving you that those theory and those lens, and then the conceptual framework. You're explaining how that might work. Okay, chapter 1 again, overall statistics. Well, tell me about the players. Tell me about these actors. For me, it was the public sector organization and the millennial generation. So with the millennial generation, it was layers of explanations, because in order for me to adequately explain how millennials were and make it significant, I had to compare them and contrast them with the other generations to make you say, wow, they are different, or wow, they do have some characteristics that mirror other generations. So it's all about the direction that you're trying to go, but at the end of the day, you're trying to plead your case in those first 2 chapters. And I think Mendeley really helps you learn your data. It kind of puts you in a mindset of capturing certain elements from your data that you would typically miss because you didn't spend time reading it or highlighting things that you needed to comment on or present to your reader. So I'm gonna definitely end it here, but I definitely I'm going to send you guys the PDF along with this particular video. I can be reached if you have any additional questions. I definitely don't mind assisting you in your research, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much for your time. You take care.